Hey there, welcome back, and welcome to the brand new 3D Printing Nerd Studios, proudly powered by PCBWay. Link in the description. PCBWay came in a big way and helped us get into this amazing space. And what you see here is just a very small part of it because the build out is happening. I happen to be able to build stuff, and so I'm building out all of the sets here on the 3D Printing Nerd soundstage. It's amazing. I'm actually detailing it over on my Patreon. If you want to follow along with that, there's a link down below as well. This is the CocoPress 3D printer. And unlike most other 3D printers that you've ever used or looked at, this one prints with chocolate.
Chocolate? Did you say chocolate?
That's right. CocoPress utilizes chocolate as the medium for which it 3D prints with. And just like a 3D printer, it can do it within a build volume. CocoPress can use milk chocolate, dark chocolate, or white chocolate to accomplish its goals, and it does it within a build volume 140 by 150 by 150. Unlike a typical plastic 3D printer, there is no heated bed here. Instead, a food-safe silicone cooking mat is used to lay the chocolate upon. And instead of a stepper motor pushing out a bunch of plastic that's been melted, it utilizes a plunger system and a carefully regulated temperature to push out chocolate into the shapes that you and I all love. Two fun facts about this. It looks like a Voron V0 because Max, or RCF from the Voron team, helped design it. And two, it's running Marlin. You know the Marlin that you and I love. It runs Marlin because it allows the machine to have temperature accuracy to 0.1 degrees Celsius. There is a metal tube inside, and within that you load the chocolate cores. The chocolate cores are roughly 65 grams of material, milk, dark, or white chocolate. And at the end you screw on a nozzle, and that nozzle is either 0.8 millimeters or 1.6 millimeters in diameter. At the top, you add a red plunger and you push that into the cylinder, and that's what provides the force against the chocolate. And then attached to this part up here is a plunger adapter, and that interfaces with it and provides the pushing power. Then you preheat the chocolate in the cylinder, and you do that via the Touch UI. Milk chocolate or dark chocolate or white chocolate all have varying temperature settings in order to make them properly print. Now, when we talk about materials that are plastic, such as PLA, ABS, PETG, take your pick. There are temperature ranges in which we can melt things, and they melt more or less depending on the temperature given. Chocolate, you need that much finer control. Like I said, Marlin allows it to use 0.1 degrees Celsius of accuracy. So you'll have the tube of chocolate heated to a certain temperature, and then the nozzle heated to a slightly different temperature. If you load up Prusa Slicer, it's already there. You can add this as a machine within Prusa Slicer. You load your model, you tell it what nozzle size you have, and then you export the G-code. You put it on the SD card, you put it in the front, and you print out your chocolate creations. On the bed right now is what 65 grams of chocolate looks like. I didn't think chocolate could curl, but it's lifting the silicone mat on either side. So there is a prime operating temperature for this. I think you want to have typical room temperatures to do this. Any colder and the chocolate is going to exhibit material properties just like you would think when something gets colder, it's going to contract. When I first got it out of the box, I printed this. It is a vase mode rose, and it looks a little rough right now, and that's because it's just been sitting on my kitchen counter waiting for me to hit record on the camera. In fact, all of these models and this machine were set up on my kitchen counter. Like, I'm in my kitchen. And I did post a short form video on TikTok and on YouTube Shorts and Instagram and all that, talking about how I had a chocolate printer now, and I was actually showing you this printing. And on TikTok, it's over 1 million views, and Instagram, 500,000 views. You all really want to see the chocolate. One thing to talk about, vase mode prints work extremely well for chocolate 3D prints because it's just one continuous line that I can spit out. And if you don't leave it sitting there on the counter and you don't let your kids and your friends pick it up and touch it, then generally it's gonna look a lot better. You should probably eat it too. I had chocolate loaded, and so of course I had to print the poop emoji. It's dark chocolate, of course. I went and got this model online and I printed it, and it's a poop emoji.
Hi, dudes.
One of the default models on the SD card is this clock spring skull, and I did this in white chocolate, and it looks fantastic. It looks fantastic. I love chocolate as a medium, and printing models that were just really thought to be printed in like a resin or a plastic, because chocolate itself has different mechanical properties and visually looks different and feels different and tastes different. And being able to take this model, which lots of people already printed in plastic, and printing it in a chocolate, I find it fascinating, especially with how cool it looks. This is an example model on the SD card, so if you have a Cocoa Press, you should print this. When we talk about printing in chocolate though, a lot of times experimentation is the key. When we think back to the RepRap days, the early RepRap days of 3D printing, we were talking about people experimenting. And the Cocoa Press, while it is a fine, polished, finished product, it still relies on you and I and others to experiment with things, such as the Mini Joule right here, which didn't complete. I stopped it because it was just too darn melty in order to print it. In fact, this and the Benchy, I just couldn't print because of the melt profile of the chocolates that I was using. The Benchies ended up being eaten because, I don't know, you can eat your failures. Like it's chocolate. It's not so bad. One of the things that we have to learn to experiment with is chocolates. It has different bridging properties and layer properties and mechanical load properties. Like it's a new material to print with. And while Cocoa Press does have examples of completed Benchies in chocolate, it took some heavy duty tweaking in order to make it possible. I didn't have the time to do that heavy duty tweaking to make it, but at the same time, I still had a lot of fun making things that failed and then eating them. It's cool to see people designing things for printing in chocolate. Dave Makes Stuff has these flowers over on things, and they are a vase mode print. You load it into Prusa Slicer, you do spiralized vase mode, and you just have no top and like 2 or 3 bottom layers, and you get this. Now this dish you can put candy in, because it's a chocolate dish if you want. It's food, like you can eat this. And I hope other people out there think about chocolate as a medium for 3D printing to make really cool new models. One of the really cool things that Cocoa Press has allowed me to do is verify my findings that gyroid is the tastiest infill. There are these example prints on the SD card that I happen to print in white chocolate, but they're all of the different types of infill that you can use with chocolate. And while a lot of them look really, really cool, gyroid, man, gyroid, it just tastes better. One of the cool things, if you have some chocolate left over, is to start a print, pause it, and then put in a new chocolate, which is what I did here. In order to print, there is a preheat cycle of 20 minutes per chocolate, and it heats that tube and that nozzle for 20 minutes just to make sure that the heat profile of the entire chocolate column is the same temperature, because it has to push it out at a consistent rate in order to get a model. Also, this being Sierpinski's triangle is, I hope I said that right, it's an example model on the SD card. And with milk chocolates, it was working until it got a little bit suspect at the top and it was just a little bit melty. So that can happen. One of the other things that concerned me a little bit is there was no way visually to tell how much chocolate was left in the tube. And when I was doing 3D printing with it, I could see this part going down as it was printing, but there's no visual indicator as to how far it is within the tube. And I would think that would be something that could be easily added, or someone could 3D print an adapter up top in order to do that. The only way that I know that this is 65 grams of chocolate on the build plate is because I heard it make a noise. And that was when the plunger hit the bottom of the tube and it couldn't push anymore, so the motor would skip. And really, that's kind of the only way that you can tell if you need to switch out the chocolates, is to listen for a motor skip. There is no visual indication of how much you've printed. The chocolate cores from Cocoa Press are compound chocolate. They're utilizing palm oil instead of cocoa butter, and that might be a concern to you. Cocoa Press is using sustainably sourced palm oil certified by the RSPO. You might be asking, hey Joel, Can I use my own chocolate in the Cocoa Press? Yes, you can! What? That's the beauty of it! When we talk about the early days of rep rap and experimenting and how it applies to here, this is how it applies to here, because you can utilize your own chocolates in this. You can cut up the cores and stack them however you want to create the chocolate model of your dreams. But it does require experimentation. And if you like to play with your food, this is doing it digitally. To buy cores from Cocoa Press, it is $49 for a 10-pack, and that's regardless of whether it's dark chocolate, milk chocolate, or white chocolate. It's $49 for a 10-pack, so you're looking at $4.90 for 65 grams. So this print on the build plate was $4.90 worth of chocolate. The Cocoa Press 3D printer is $1,499 for the DIY kit. Now, this one specifically was provided to me for the purposes of review, and no money exchanged hands, but chocolate did. And before we go, I just want to make mention that Zach Friedman put out an amazing video utilizing the Cocoa Press 3D printer that he built. Now, he printed his own parts using CookieCAD filament, and it looks fantastic. But then for Valentine's Day, he printed probably the most well-organized chocolate gift I've ever seen. Of course, I'll put a link to Zach's video down below. Well, shoot, this is it. This is the first episode from the new space. Like, look at this. I can walk around. I've got space. I can do stuff. I can go over here. I could go over here. It's all amazing. And again, detailing this over on Patreon. If you want to follow along, there's a link in the description. We did it. The first one from the new spot. If you made it this far, you're awesome. Don't forget to hug each other more. Fight for a cause you believe in. Eat your prints. It's always. High five.